do you know sort of the difference between if you were to see a Ford Edge at nighttime in a snowstorm, the difference between a Ford Edge and a Jeep Cherokee?
This is a very risky question. He's asking, do you know the difference? This is critical to the case, because if we believe Lucky, and if Lucky's credible, and if Lucky knows what he's talking about, it's impossible for Karen to actually committed the murder.
Yes.
What's the difference?
The taillights in the back.
What about it?
Ford Edge is a more round. The whole back facade is a little bit more round. A Jeep Cherokee are more square.
Wow. Wow. He asked 2 questions he didn't know the answer to.
Sir, but you didn't intentionally hit the basketball hoop, correct?
Correct.
So you hit it because you didn't see it, correct? You were asked some questions about February 15th, 2022, and you spoke to some investigator on that day, correct?
February 15th?
Yes, 2022. That Paul person you were talking
Yes.
We're back with our hero Lucky. He's still on the stand. It's cross-examination time by the prosecution. Let's watch.
about. And you met him at a skating rink, is that right?
Correct.
They're speaking about the time when Lucky met with an investigator for Karen Reed's team shortly after John O'Keefe was killed.
And you said in a statement to him at that time that you would have seen a body on the front lawn or the sidewalk, is that right?
Correct.
Are you aware that there is no sidewalk on the same side of the street as 34 Fairview Road?
Correct.
Prosecutor trying to trick him by claiming he didn't know that there was a sidewalk. Of course Lucky does.
Since some familiarity with the Alberts and with the Albert resident, are there other people on that route that you're familiar with as far as where they live and who they are and all that?
Yes.
And how are you equally familiar with them, more familiar with them, or less familiar with them?
Equally.
Equally? Now, familiarity with 34 Fairview Road, does that extend to sort of the lighting around that area?
No.
So do you know that there is actually no street lighting whatsoever in the area of the fire hydrant or the flagpole or anywhere there for several hundred feet?
Correct.
So you do know that?
I believe so, yes.
We teach don't start your questions with do you know, because it's going to be confusing for the witness. Do you know that your husband's cheating on you? Of course he is, but if you answer yes, that means you know if he is or he isn't. That's what makes it confusing. Don't start your questions with do you know.
And so when you're driving by, you're looking for cars coming out of the driveway, cars coming in the opposite direction, people walking, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're trying to look for those
But more importantly, we know old Lucky's looking out for animals, and that's why he's our hero.
objects so that you make sure that you don't strike them or hit them or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
And on February 15th, 2022, when you had this meeting with Paul, you told him about 3:30 or 4 a.m. Is when you saw this Ford Edge on Cedar Cliffs, correct?
Correct.
Now, in fact, when you first spoke to this individual named Paul, you didn't tell him it was a Ford Edge, correct?
No. Told him it was a Ford Edge.
You didn't tell him first that it was a small SUV?
No. Told him it was a Ford Edge.
Do you remember at any time Paul taking you on the parking lot and showing you different vehicles and asking you if those vehicles matched what vehicle you saw?
No. He wanted to make sure that what I was telling him was accurate. So he showed me what was a Ford Edge. But I had already told him it was a Ford Edge.
So he brought you out to the parking lot at the skating rink that you were meeting at, specifically showed you a Ford Edge and asked you if that was the vehicle.
Correct.
Now, do you know sort of the difference between, if you were to see a Ford Edge at nighttime in a snowstorm, the difference between a Ford Edge and a Jeep Cherokee?
This is a very risky question. Obviously, the prosecutor's trying to make the claim that he did not see a Ford Edge and perhaps he saw Karen's car there. You've probably heard the cliche, never ask a question you don't know the answer to, and generally that's okay, but the grandmasters, the experts at trial, can ask questions that we don't know the answer to. He's asking, do you know the difference? This is critical to the case, because if we believe Lucky, and if Lucky's credible, and if Lucky knows what he's talking about, it's impossible for Karen to actually committed the murder.
Yes.
What's the difference?
The taillights in the back.
What about it?
Ford Edge is a more round. The whole back facade is a little bit more round. A Jeep Cherokee are more square.
Wow. Wow. He asked 2 questions he didn't know the answer to. Let's listen to that again.
If you were to see a Ford Edge at nighttime in a snowstorm, the difference...
Okay, there's a Ford Edge. I have no clue what a Ford Edge looks like, but that's it. Now we're looking at the tail lights here.
Between a Ford Edge and a Jeep Cherokee?
When it goes by quickly, yeah, you can easily tell the difference.
Yes.
What's the difference?
The taillights in the back.
You hear that question? What's the difference? He didn't know the answer to that. That was very risky and a huge win for our hero here. He knew exactly the difference between a Ford Edge and a Jeep Cherokee.
What about him?
If you're going to ask a question to an adverse witness that you don't know the answer to, you better have a question for each answer. If he says he does know, then have a question. If he doesn't know, then have a question. But here, all the prosecutor had was, what about him? And then Lucky knows even more detail.
Ford edges are more round. The whole back facade is a little bit more round.
You better believe that, old Lucky.
A Jeep Cherokee are more square.
Woo! Wow, Lucky knew the exact details. Maybe this prosecutor was sizing Lucky up, thinking he's not that smart. Well, guess what? Lucky knew the difference between a Jeep Cherokee and a Ford Edge's taillights. Wow. And let's take a look here. Lucky's 100% right. The Ford Edge clearly is rounded here, while the Jeep Cherokee is definitely more square. Wow. That's why they have those general rules regarding don't ask a question you don't know the answer to, especially to an adverse witness.
Now, what color was this SUV that you saw?
I can't tell you that. I am colorblind.
Can you tell whether or not an object is dark or light just by looking at it?
I can see things that are light. I can see things that are dark. I can see true colors. I can't see shades of true colors.
And so from what you saw, was this light or dark?
Light.
Now, you told Paul individual on February 15th that the SUV that you saw was exactly where Mr. O'Keefe's body was.
Can you imagine living in the state of Massachusetts and you find out that your investigators did not question Lucky, the only eyewitness that was there at the critical times?
How do you know where his body was found?
I told him specifically if he was looking at the door, the front door, it was about 3 feet to the left of the door. And
To the left of the door?
looking at the front of the door to the left of the door, pushing it up Fairview.
If he wrote in his report that you told him that the SUV was exactly where the body was found, that would not be true, would it not?
That would be true. The car was to the left of the door, putting it in front of the flagpole.
My question for you, sir, is how do you know where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found?
The same way we all know. We all had to do our own independent investigation to figure out what happened here. This cover was so extensive, we had to do our own investigation for this murder. These dopey detectives thought they literally were going to get away with this.
Did you see Mr. O'Keefe's body on the front lawn?
No.
So how do you know where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found?
Through police reports, police interviews, stuff that was posted on the media.
You're recounting sort of what you've heard or saw on the news, so this doesn't come from your personal knowledge or anything about where Mr. O'Keefe was, correct?
That's right, dummy. He didn't see the body there.
Correct.
Okay. Did you go down Fairview Road at 12 a.m. and 2 a.m.?
No.
If that were contained in a report of your conversation you had in May of 2023, would that be accurate? Objection.
Sustained.
Listen to that question carefully. May of 2023 is when these dopey cops eventually got around to questioning Lucky here.
Conversation that you had in May of 2023, did you tell those individuals that you saw the vehicle around 1:30 or 2 in the morning?
Again, I don't remember ever saying that.
I would not trust any of the cops that drafted that report. Lucky's been very credible with us, and you can see it. You can feel it. You can feel authenticity.
Did you see a vehicle around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning?
I wasn't on the road at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Now, do you also recall telling those individuals that Fairview Road was blocked off by cruisers at about 3 or 3:30 in the morning?
Again, that would have been incorrect.
Do you recall saying that in May of 2000?
Those individuals the prosecutor's referring to are the dirty cops in Massachusetts trying to frame Karen Reed.
2023.
I do not.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to read, I'm showing you a document. I'm going to ask you to read this paragraph, and this paragraph. Mr. Loughran, after having reviewed that, is your memory refreshed as to that conversation you had in May of 2023?
No, it does not.
So you still, after reading that, don't recall telling anybody in May of 2023 that you came in around 11:30 p.m., 12 a.m. on the 28th, 29th?
I never came in at 11:30, 12:30 at night. It was 2:30 calling.
Prosecutors trying so hard to rely upon a report that was written by these dirty cops.
Indicating to anyone in May of 2023 that you went past Fairview at 12 a.m. and 2 a.m.?
Correct, never did.
And you don't recall telling anyone that you saw the car around 1:30 or 2 a.m., is that correct?
Correct.
And you don't recall telling anybody that the part of Fairview containing 34 Fairview was blocked off at 3 or 3:30 a.m., correct?
Correct.
You sure you didn't see a black Lexus SUV in front of the house at 34 Fairview Road around 5 a.m.?
Now we see the prosecutor's goal. He's trying to make the jury believe that old Lucky here didn't see that Ford Edge, but rather it was Karen's SUV in front of the house.
No.
Now, you also were asked some questions and you spoke to some troopers in August of 2023, correct?
Correct.
And at some point, when you were plowing on Tippy Cart that night, you actually hit a basketball hoop. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you call that in?
Yes.
And as a result of that, what happened with the basketball hoop after that?
2 points.
Nothing. The point was to make sure I was covered, basically. That's why I notified my supervisor that I hit the basketball hoop.
And obviously, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything, sir, but you didn't intentionally hit the basketball hoop, correct?
Correct.
So you hit it because you didn't see it, correct?
I was attempting to avoid the net by going around it, and the machine had a different size body than what it originally had. And I underestimated when I was going around that I need to be wider.
So you misjudged the distance, is that fair to say?
Yes.
There you have it. The prosecution cracked the case. We now know Lucky destroyed a basketball hoop. There's been more evidence that Lucky hit a basketball hoop with Frankentruck than Karen came close to hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV. It's so refreshing to hear an authentic witness. And yes, he did take out a basketball hoop, but he did report it. But his testimony can save the life of Karen Reed and then put us on the path to finding the true killers. There goes my hero. Watch him as he goes. There goes my hero. He's ordinary. I salute you, Lucky.